All right, so we got our cover made, we got our bag made, we got the pockets all ready to roll. So now we're going to add the big pocket to the bag. This is not a technical thing. You can make it as technical as you want it. What I'm going to do is I fold it up to where I think I like it, and I want a good at least 4 inches of overlap so that as the bag fills, expands, I still have some overlap. But I'm going to do that, and then what I'm going to do is open it back up, and I'm going to mark this line on the inside of the bag with a piece of chalk. I use chalk because it washes off. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Pull it over. I think I wanted. Mark it with some chalk. There's my rough lines of where this pocket is going to go. So I'm going to start on the bottom, and I like to put the bottom where I did my overlap of the growth screen. I don't know why, I just think it looks better, so that's what I'm doing. Get the pocket. The first thing we're going to do is take the bottom of the pocket, the dark side up, and I'm going to secure it between those two lines right at the bottom edge, just like so. And that's where I'm going to secure it, and I'm going to make sure that it's even on both sides. You're going to have overlap of your line. That's okay. You actually want that, but I want to make sure that I am centered of the thing, or of the saddle, or of the bag with my mark, and that's where I'm going to sew it up. Go down one side, up the other. And the reason I do that is so that when we flip it upright, it is we're not looking at the bad end. We're looking at a clean edge. So there we go. That's what I'm doing next. All right, there's our pocket. Add it on. All right, so we have our large pocket sewed in. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our side pocket for your device. But before we do that, I do the outside work, because this pocket, if you put the pocket in, then it's really hard to work around it without sewing the pocket down. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work off of our lines, thread lines, from sewing in the pocket, and I'm gonna put a strap on one side. Originally I was putting 2 straps on. It just doesn't help any, so I'm going with 1 strap right in the middle. That seems to work out really well. So I'm gonna have a strap with a buckle on one side and a loop on the other side for it to snap into, or for it to clip into. Really simple. And then on the inside of the side that I have the strap, I'm gonna put 2 molle loops. I'm not sure which side yet. I'm gonna put the strap on this side though. So that's my next move. I'm using 1 inch pretty thin webbing material. Burn my end. I'm putting it about center of the pocket of the bag, right on that thread line. Sorry, center of the pocket, right on my thread line from sewn in the pocket, or center of the bag. here's the pattern that I sew. It's just a zigzag, and that's plenty. I'm using 69 thread, so that's not coming off there unless you work really hard to get it off. And now directly across from this, on the other side of the bag, I will put just a little 1.5 inch loop on there. So I burned the ends of my little, I don't know how long this is. I think it's about 4 inches. And I just fold it in half, and that's what I'm making my loop for my bag to connect to. So the way I'm sewing around, like that right there, even with the top loop. And I do the same thing, line it up with the edge of where I sewed the pocket on. And you can make this a lot nicer, doing a lot of measuring and all that, but it's a rope bag, so I'm not trying to make anything fancy here. All right, so I do the same stitch pattern, just a zigzag. All right, so now we have that one on this side. We got the loop on this side, so that when I put the G hook on it, close the bag up, G hook will slide into that. No, like that. Pretty simple. Again, be sure to burn all the ends of your webbing. All right, so now we're ready to put the pocket on. And on video 2, I showed you how to prep the pocket. I'm not sure if I did this on there or not, but I added this little piece of 3/8 webbing, and then I tucked the edges over a little bit just to make it a little cleaner. It's not really necessary. This webbing is really heavy duty, but if you want it to be really clean looking, it's a good idea to fold it over. So you just pick what side you want it to be on. I'm going to put it on the side, on the right side as you're facing it open. And I start sewing across the bottom. And one thing that I do is when I'm sewing this across the bottom, that's where I need to see it, that you'll have a little bit of extra. I fold it over and create a little pleat right here and sew that in, and that gives you a little more room in your bag, gives you a little more of an opening, because the top is going to be a little more open than the bottom is, obviously. So I start at the corner, start working my way over. Just show you how I'm setting this up. So I'm putting the corner kind of butting against the large pocket, lining it up with the bottom, and I'm going to start sewing around it. Here's where I put that little pleat I was talking about. Basically just fold it over itself. I go back across. like to sew everything twice, at least on these. On the saddle, it's 3 times. All right, so I start working it back up. Now what you gotta be careful of is your loop. You don't want to sew it down, so you gotta know where it's at. You might have to move it over this way or that way. Anywhere there's an opening to a pocket, I go back 3, 4, 5 times just to make sure that doesn't pull off, because that's one of your high wear areas. Notice I've got some thread bunching up here, and that's because one of my strands just broke, so I'm going to recut and fix that so it doesn't continue through the stitch. Real quick sewing tip: anytime you're sewing and you've got a bunch up or something like that, never pull from the top up to pull it out this way, because any fibers might get caught up in your tension disc or something like that. Always pull your mess ups from the bottom. That way you're pulling clean thread through. And I'll clean all that up later. All right. We'll rethread this. Ready to get back at it. I'm just sewing up the other side. Right, there's your device pocket right there. A lot of guys are putting another little webbing up here to clip your bean or two. I find that to be kind of a pain. Like the whole thing just slides in there, it's not going to come out. So that goes there. And now we're going to add the molle on the inside pocket here. And you got to be careful because you have this strap that you don't want to get caught sewing into your molle. So you got to be cognizant of that. Make sure you move it out of the way as you're sewing. Now, unfortunately, I ran out of my green webbing, so I'm using a little piece of gray here. But again, it's a rope bag. Doesn't need to be pretty. So my first stitch is I'm going to cover this stitch with it. So it's going to go back behind here. Then I'm going to come over to the middle, put a stitch, and to the end, put a stitch, and create my molle that way. I do 3. I lift the pedal, bring it up, put a loop in. Make sure it's straight. Drop the pressure foot and go back at it. I'll show you why I was saying you got to be careful where your strap is, because I just did what I was saying not to do. I just opened my strap down. So, gotta move it out of the way. I'm going to cut that and move that back out of the way and restitch that one. I did on purpose just to show you guys. Alright, let's get back at it. Now I got my first stitch down. Move that bottom strap under. You're welcome for that little tip. That little example of how not to do it. Okay, again, make your loop. Make sure your strap is out of the way, which it is. Midway point or so. Go for it. There's my molle loops. Now I have this excess. I'll cut it off right at the edge without cutting the edge. What I do is I fold this edge back, push the molle up. And burn it right there. What's nice about a torch, you can kind of control the flame a little better. There goes. There's 2 molle loops. Now we're going to put the hood on. Real quick, I want to show you about this hood. Something I did a little bit different is I took a piece of 2-inch seatbelt strap. I folded it in half. And I sewed a line right on that bend to give me a kind of a nice, I guess it would be a nice bend in it. That kind of stays in place. And I did I don't know what the stitch is called, but my machine had it, so I put it on there just because it really closed up the end. You don't need that. I folded the over, and you can fold the end over of the hood and just do a straight stitch. But I had that capability, so I did it. So now I'm going to take this side and sew it to the top of the bag, center of these 2 lines, making sure I keep the pocket out of the way. I'm just doing a straight stitch. is with the hood on. Let's see, I just did a couple lines back and forth. I'll clean up the edges. Now I got to cut all the threads and clean up the edges. But this one is basically ready to go. All I have left is I'll put 2 little 1-inch webbing loops here with the metal tri-glide, like so you can hook it to your molle, and it is ready to go. All right, I'm gonna post this one up because you guys can cover that end, clean this thing up, and that'll be it for this. Thanks.